Welcome to Class 6, and with this shot I will be incorporating the Mocha Pro plugin into my workflow to help me roto. So you might be wondering, why don't I just use the Mocha tracker that's built into Silhouette? It's because the plugin is almost identical to the standalone, and it has some additional features that I want to use in my workflow with this particular shot. So here I have another aerial shot, and I want to roto this foreground cliff so it can be isolated from the valley below. It's one of those shots that looks easy, but given how the features slowly change over time, it makes for some challenging roto, and there's also some lens distortion at the edge of frame. So, and the slower movement is also going to reveal any inaccuracies in the roto. So I'm going to use the Mocha tracker to help reduce human error, and I'll show you what options are available. So here I've added the Mocha Pro node off my, my source node here. And I'll show you what options are available inside. I'm going to just probably undock this real quick, easier to show you. So here we have various options for the views and the matte and the module renders. So here under module, you have all these different choices of what you can use inside of Silhouette. And they're all very powerful, and I highly encourage you to check them out. Okay, so I'm just going to redock this right here. Okay, yeah, and with this shot, I'm going to show you how to export tracking from Mocha to use back in Silhouette to help you with your roto. And I'm also going to show you how to export your completed roto shapes from Mocha back into Silhouette in case you want to do your roto in Mocha. So let's get started right now, and I am going to launch it right here. Yeah, so today we're just going to take advantage of the tracking and roto inside of Mocha. Okay, so here you see I have my completed shot, and I'll turn off some of these so we can, I can recreate some of what I did so I can show you how I did it. Okay, I'm going to retrack. I think I'm going to retrack this upper area here. I'm going to expand this over here so you can see. So I've previously tracked and rotoed this mid upper cliff. So you can see that right here, and I will just redo that. Okay, so I'm going to create a tracking shape. I'm going to go to a frame that's easy to see but not too distorted. Make my tracking shape. I'm going to label this mid upper cliff track new. And I'm going to place this below my holdout shapes here that are in black. And I'm going to click all the boxes here. I'm going to increase the pixels. And I'm going to track this through. We'll go back and track to the beginning. Okay, so now that I have my track, I have a couple options. I can either export this tracking data back to Silhouette to use there, or I can roto my shape here and export that shape data back to Silhouette as well, or I can do both. So I'm going to roto a shape here inside of Mocha. Okay, so first I'm going to make a zoom in here and choose a frame to make my shape on. I'm doing this a little bit quickly, and I'm going to turn off my tracking shape so I can just focus on the roto. And I'm going to call this mid upper cliff roto new, since I already have some existing roto. I can just do some edits here. And before I do any keyframing, I'm going to link this roto layer to the track. So with the layer selected, I'm going to go down to link to track, and I'm going to select mid upper cliff track new. Okay. And now I'm going to switch to the roto workspace. So it's just like the standalone. So now I have a larger area to see my shapes. So now I'm going to make a keyframe. And I'm basically keyframing on top of the track data. So I'm not going to go too far. Make a little bit of an edit here. And I'm going to go in between the keyframes to compare with Shift X and Shift Z. So what I've done here is that I've actually, those aren't the normal hotkeys for going in between keyframes. I've actually remapped them inside of Mocha, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So they're remapped to match the silhouette keyframes. All right, so I'm going to go up to File Preferences, and I'm going to go to the Key Shortcuts tab here, maybe expand this out a little bit. And I'm going to find where the hotkey is, the shortcut is for keyframing going in between. So I think it's menus and then movie. And you can see here, next keyframe, Shift X, and previous keyframe, Shift Z. So to edit keyframe assignment here, you just double click on that, and now you can see you can edit it. But I've already edited. I'm not going to change it. And before I did this, I made sure that there was no other hotkey for that same item inside of Mocha. So I wasn't overwriting something that I would maybe want to use in a different area. So yeah, and then I saved my profile with something that's with my name on it, and I can always go back to the default if I want the default hotkeys. So I'll click OK. So now when I go in between keyframes, like I said, it's Shift X for the next one and Shift Z for the previous. And I find that really handy, so I don't have to remember two different kinds of shortcut hotkeys in between Mocha and Silhouette. Okay, so now I'm not going to roto this entire shape, but I'm going to show you how to bring the shape back into Silhouette. I'm going to go back to the Classic workspace, and I'm going to select, I'm going to expand this a little bit here. So say, for example, well, I'll just bring this one back. So I'm going to click my roto shape here, and I'm going to go down to Export Shape Data. And then I'm going to make sure that I have the correct pull down item selected, Silhouette Shapes, that's correct. I'm going to copy to clipboard. And then I'm going to save, Mocha, quit, and now I'm back in Silhouette. So now I'm going to go to my roto node here. I'm going to expand my object list. So I'm in the roto node, and I'm going to Command V or paste. And now you can see I have my my upper cliff roto new folder with my spline in it. So it's not. Let me turn on my overlay here, tool overlay. So it's not finished, but you can see that's how I would bring back a finished shape. And I will actually turn on that shape right now. So I'm going to turn off that new one I just made, and we'll go to mid upper cliff roto. Let me pull this out so you can see finished in Mocha. So here is my spline. I'll turn that on. So you can see there's the finished shape. Okay, so the last thing here I want to show you is how to export your tracking data from Mocha if you want to roto inside of Silhouette. We'll go back to the Mocha Pro node and we'll launch the UI again. I'm going to expand this out. So I'm going to go to a layer where I want to export the tracking data. I'm going to turn this off and we're going to go to, how about, we'll just do this mid-cliff. So here with this track, I want to export this back into Silhouette so that I can roto using that tracking data. So with this selected, I'm going to click Export Tracking Data. And I'm going to make sure that the correct item is selected, that Silhouette corner pin. There's lots of different options. I'm going to copy to clipboard, save, quit out of Mocha, go back to my roto node here, and expand my object list. And then I'm going to click Command V, and that's paste. And now you can see I have my corner pin trackers right here. So now I'm going to apply that to a layer so that I can use that for my roto. So with the trackers selected here, I'm going to, I don't actually have to make a layer. I can just go to the tracking window, Shift T, and make sure I'm on the point tracker tab. And I'm going to click Apply. And it says corner pin tracking applied to active layer. Okay. And now you can see that this data inside here, I can go to the timeline that I have all of this keyframe information right here. There we go. Mid cliff. Okay, then just to keep things a little more organized, I'm going to put all of this into a parent layer because if I expand this, you can see that when I've copy pasted the corner pin tracking data into the object list, I have several trackers with the same name. And while I could just rename the trackers, it's easier just to rename or to make a layer and keep organized that way. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call this Mid Cliff Roto. And then I'm going to select everything inside, everything here, and I'm going to drag it inside this layer. So now you can see that this is where everything lives. And now I'm going to make my shape inside of this layer. I'm going to go to a frame. It's kind of in the middle because I know I'm going to have to shrink and expand this shape. So I kind of want to go in the middle where I have just enough detail to make it smaller and to make it bigger. So this was a little bit quick. And now you can see it's following along with the tracking data, and I can do my keyframing on top of that to finish the shape. So I'll show you my finished roto right now. I'm going to turn off what I imported earlier. Expand this up a little bit. So now you can see I have all these different sections I did. I have the upper cliff. I have the mid upper cliff roto, which I exported my actual shape I did inside of Mocha. And then I have my mid cliff tracking and my roto shape that I did inside of Silhouette. And the same with the lower cliff. I'll just play that through. So yeah, it's incredibly efficient to be able to quickly go back and forth between each program, and it really speeds up my workflow. And then we'll just take a quick look at the slap comp here. just so I can check my work. Okay, so that's a way to use the Mocha Pro plugin inside of Silhouette. Welcome to the second part of Class 6, which is using the Mocha Pro plugin inside of Silhouette for the Lens Undistort Distort workflow. Here I have a shot with noticeable lens distortion. I need to paint out a couple of things and then redistort the plate afterwards with my paint intact. Okay, so first I'm going to stop the shot here. And you can see this distortion here and a lot over there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a DoD node. The DoD stands for Domain of Definition, and using this node here in this situation is going to allow me to have a larger workspace than what my session is currently set at. So I'm going to go to the nodes, my favorites, and here's the DoD. I'll click on that. I'm going to zoom out, because after I flatten the shot, I'm going to need a larger canvas around my image. So I could either drag out the handles like that, or if I hold down Shift, you can pull out the handles equidistant on either side. But I'm just going to, I know exactly what I want my canvas to be, and I want it the same pixels on either side. So I'm going to enter it down here in the dialog box. Okay, now you can see I have equal border on all four sides. And now I need to set the ROI to this DoD. And to do that, I'm going to click the ROI icon up on the top of the viewer. And then I'm going to click this icon here, which says set ROI to current DoD. So now I am all set to go. So next we're going to add a Mocha Pro node. And we'll launch Mocha Pro with this button right here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We're going to go to the lens module right here, and I'm going to click locate lines. So Mocha is analyzing the shot, and then I can add a line or connect a line here. And we'll see what that gets us. I'm going to click the grid tool, and then I'm going to choose one parameter distortion, and I'm going to click calibrate. And now you can see that, the lens has, the grid has changed to match the lens for the shot. So yeah, now we're going to render this frame and see what it looks like. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to close Mocha Pro, and now we are back inside of Silhouette. Okay, now we need to, inside of the Mocha Pro node, we're going down to the module renders. I'm going to click the render button here and click to the pull down lens and distort. So now you can see we have our flattened plate. Let's zoom in. And now, so what we're looking for are straight lines. If I click on the original and then we click on the calibrated, you can see that the lines are straight. So now we can start doing our roto and our paint. So what I'm going to do here in this shot is I'm going to paint this window here. And what we're going to do is, first I've already done some tracking to speed this up, because it's kind of a long shot and I don't want to make you sit through it. So here I have tracked an area. So you can see this blue box was my Mocha tracker. And what I want to do is I want to paint this window here. So I'm going to zoom in. So I'm going to paint this window, and I want to paint it within a mask. So here I've made a window paint mask, and I put a little blur on it. So I'm going to turn off my Mocha tracker, and now I'm going to add a paint node. And I'm going to hook up the paint node like this. Using a mouse today is a little harder for me. Okay, so one thing I also need to do first is that after I do some processing in Mocha, I end up with a white alpha. We'll look at that. And to use the painting with show shapes, I need a black alpha or transparent. So I'm going to invert the alpha below Mocha. I'm going to go to my nodes, click the invert, and I'm just going to put it in here. And I'm going to invert the alpha. So now you can see I'm in the paint. I have my matte, which shows up, and I have a black alpha. Okay. So now I need to make my paint source here. So I'm going to go to the Paint tab. Here, I'm going to click on the Clone tool. And I'm going to deselect subpixel because I never paint in subpixel. It makes the image too soft. And I'm going to make my clone source. I'm going to first transform is going to be the lower building. That's my lower building track. Back to the paint. I'm going to show shapes. Now I can see my matte right here. Click Obey Alpha. And I'm going to deselect relative, and I'm going to select source match move because I'm going to make my clone source follow the tracking. I'm turn on the interactive tool. So now I need to make my clone source for this window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this image over and use that as the clone source. So you can see I'm going to move it over like that. But it's not quite big enough. I'm going to set the pivot point right here and scale it. I'm going to click the period key, and that sets my pivot right there. Hold down the shift key, and now I'm scaling from the center of that. Maybe I'll move it over a little bit. And just a little bit of rotating. Okay, so now I'm not quite ready to paint. The next thing I need to do is I'm going to probably make the image a little bit darker. So let's turn on the compare tool, and I'm going to hold down the command key and just take the gain down a little bit, just so you can have a little comparison when after I'm done painting. Okay, I've done that. I'm going to turn off the compare. I'm going to go back to the clone tool, and I'm finally ready to paint. I'm going to hold down the command key and scale my brush up, and I'm going to paint this window. So now you can see it's darker and just in that area. So now we're ready to paint our shot. I'm going to click on my paint strokes here. I'm going to do all frames, and I'm going to make sure that everything is set. I have match move selected. I have my transform information selected, show shapes. I don't have to have that selected, but I want to see it. I'm going to turn off the strokes there, and I'm going to use this same frame, and we're going to track all that through. Okay, so let's click that, and we'll paint the shot. So while I can't actually, if I make roto shapes in this roto node, I can't apply the distortion back to those actual shapes, but you can roto within in this node, and you can render the mattes out. So you can see here, like that's a possibility as well. So I could do a lot of roto in here, or what I mean is that I could use the roto I do if I use the alpha mattes that are rendered out with the paint on the redistorted plate. In the end, if okay, my paint is too dark here, I now have an alpha that I can use to lighten it up. Okay, we're almost done. The fan is turned on my computer, and we are maxing out with the memory, but it's all going to be fine. Okay, I'm going to save real quick, and now let's check out our paint. So you can see that I can turn off the show shapes, maybe just zoom out a little bit. And our paint is inside our window. So the last thing we need to do, I'm going to just clear my memory down here. is we need to redistort the plate and the paint. So what we're going to do is I'm going to copy this Mocha Pro node here. Copy. I'm going to paste it below the paint. I'm going to go into the node here. I'm going to select distort. So now you can see that our paint has been distorted. So we just click on before and after. If I look at the alpha, you can see that's in the right place as well. So, and it's kind of curved here. It's not super easy to see. We'll just compare like that and then compare like that. So there you have it. That is the lens undistort and distort workflow in Silhouette for Roto and Paint.